All right, this video is going to help us with adding or subtracting decimals. Now, when you're adding or subtracting decimals, you have three things that you really always have to remember. The first thing is all whole numbers have a decimal. All whole numbers have a decimal. So when you're not sure where that decimal is, you need to know that the decimal hides behind the mom. Now, mom is in quotations because the mom is the whole number. Kind of like when my little baby boy, when he gets scared, he comes and he hides behind my legs. He'll hug my legs from behind. So he seeks shelter from his mom, and he hides behind the decimal. I'm sorry, behind me. So the decimal is always hiding behind the mom, the whole number. And the third thing you have to remember is to line up your decimals, like Christmas lights. And I'll show you what that means. So here we have an example, 23 plus 14 and 78 hundredths. Now, the very first thing I notice is that the 23 doesn't have a decimal on it. So I'm going to go ahead and find the decimal, and he's hiding. Where does he hide? Behind the whole number, behind the mom. All right, so now I know where the decimal is in both of my numbers. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to line up my decimals, just like Christmas lights. They're all lined up perfectly in one row. So then I'm also going to make my line. So I made my line going across, and now one number at a time, I'm going to put them where they need to go. So if I focus in on this number first, I notice that there's a 2 and a 3 on the left side of my decimal, so I'm going to place them in there correctly, carefully, and there's nothing on the right. So now I'm going to focus in on this number. I see that on the left, I have a 14. Make sure my numbers are nice and neat rows, just like my decimals. And then on the right side, I have a 78. So now I see that there's some spaces that are empty, so I'm just going to plug them in with zeros. It will not change the value of anything. So now I'm just going to add these up like a regular addition problem. Let's move on to another example. Here, once again, as soon as I see this, I notice that there is no decimal on the number 18. So where do I find the decimal? Hiding behind the whole number. So now what I'm going to do is start by lining up my decimals. Here's my decimal, and then my answer is going to have a decimal. Straight line, just like an addition problem. Now that I have my problem set up and ready, I'm going to start by plugging in my numbers once again. On the left side of my first number, I find 74. And on the right side, I'm going to find a 3/10. Now my second number, I see 18 on the left side. And on the right side, I have nothing. So once again, I'm going to be plugging in my empty spaces with a 0. It's not changing the value of any number. And then I'm going to subtract just like a regular problem. Now, 3 take away 0 is 3. 4 take away 8 will leave me a negative number, so it cannot be done currently. So that means if there's more on the floor, go next door. And we're going to take 1 away from the 7, and we're going to give 10 more to 4, making it 14. 14 minus 8 is 6, and 6 minus 1 is 5.